Welcome to the Football Historian Podcast.
By all means, enjoy it.
He will go right to the very top.
Dos, tres, cuatro times.
Here we go, Germans.
I will turn these results round.
All right, that's good manners.
There's animosity, but there's no fight.
If you can't beat them, join them.
How do you make me feel sick if I look at you?
No, I want to fight here. Don't drink, don't sleep with women, don't drive fast cars.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit too!
Hello, welcome to the Football Historian Podcast. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Thomas Atkinson. Thank you very much. We're going to go in and have a chat about, we're going to do some debate, football history. Yeah. We've got a new feature today that I want to trial out on you, which is the red card, which I'll go into.
Yeah, right, I got that.
And then we'll talk about a few other things. But first, just briefly for anyone unaware, they're going to get to know you a lot better. Who are you and why are you here, is what I normally say, but my dad said that was too mean. So just who are you?
So I'm Thomas Atkinson. I'm a 21-year-old professional amputee football player from Carlisle, which if you don't know where Carlisle is, like District, Cumbria. I was also a contestant on this year's Big Brother, which quite a lot of people got me like a decent rendition for people like knowing who I was then. But yeah, that's a bit of me. I'd say like I'm a footballer before anything, but obviously people can know me for whether it's for like TikTok, YouTube, a little bit of acting that I've done, and obviously like Big Brother. So yeah, that's me in a small term. Oh, and obviously I've got one arm and one leg, but that's from a shark, so separate incident.
We'll go into all that in more detail. Looking forward to the shark attack story. So I want to start off with your football side. So amputee football. Yeah. Playing, at what level do you have to play with other amputee footballers? Because I've got a story in that. My dad used to run a footy team, and my brother took over, then I took over. And one day it was like, you know, when you're desperate for players, someone needs to turn up. My brother was like, this lad, whoever met him, want to put him in goal. He comes up and he had one arm and he had the gloves ready for him. He was like, I can't ask him to go in goal. You are a goalkeeper. Yeah, no, so it's like, how awkward is it when the first person to ask the bloke with one arm to go in goal?
Exactly. Like whenever I don't want to go in net, I've got the most perfect. It's like, who asked the one-handed guy to go in net? Like, that's the awful idea. You don't want to like an absolute like who's that dickhead asking the guy with one arm to go in net? But it's one of them situations of like, especially if I've got an older brother, so like as like a younger brother, you're always just like go in net and let him take shots. And I was probably learned from I was always obsessed with football. So I was always like from like the moment I could walk, I was kicking a football, and then I was obsessed and I was liking like playing in net. I was like playing out the field. So, and I was introduced to like the England pathway, and then at that point, like that's when I realised that if I wanted to play at the highest level, I was going to be a goalkeeper, which was like somewhat like a bit of a niche in the grand scheme of things, because you've got a million players who want to be a striker, thousands of players who want to be a midfielder, so quite a few want to be a defender, but then there's not as many that want to be a goalkeeper. And obviously, if I'm pretty good, then that was my pathway into an England squad. And I think as growing up as a kid, anyone wants to play for England and represent the country, sing the national anthem and have your parents watching on. So I've managed to live that dream. Yeah,
and as you say, you're 21, so your football career is far from over. But
exactly.
You're playing for England. Is he captain of Portsmouth?
Yeah, I'm captain of Portsmouth.
Legia, Warsaw as well. What's the career? How did you go from playing like Sunday league, whatever, up to there?
So I originally started at Newcastle, and that's when my first experience with like men's football. I had my debut there at like 14-year-old, which was mental because I was like way smaller than everybody. I was just getting like the first experience of like men's football coming from like under 21s football, which is even still young, at like a 14-year-old playing under 21s football. I remember I played under 21s when I was like England versus Turkey, and everyone on the pitch was older than me. I'm seeing like people walk off the pitch to the kids, and I'm like, honestly, I've just about finished puberty. Like, what's going on here? But then I transitioned from Newcastle to Portsmouth, and Portsmouth really gave me the pathway to go, like playing like high level, to play with the England team, and like now got 26 caps for England, which was like a bit of a mental thing that I thought I'd achieve at only 21. But that's obviously gave me the pathway to go play like professional football in Poland, which I don't do anymore. Like my contract ended over there. I decided not to extend for like external factors of going like the allocation for like foreign players over there, and obviously my own schedule, so it didn't really work, but I enjoyed my experience over there. It's something that I'd probably look into again if the opportunity arose. But there's so many things in amputee football that I'm lucky that I've already achieved quite a young career, but hopefully there's a whole lot more things that are going to happen in the future, so that I'm not just done my career at 21.
Yeah, well, I said that there's obviously a lot to come. I'm not asking you to show me your wages, but what's the money like in amputee football? Is it a full-time job at Legia Warsaw and Portsmouth?
So the money abroad's like good, like it is good, and like people is there living over there. Whereas in England, like the money's not Like, literally, I don't earn a penny playing for England, which is mental. I don't earn a penny playing for Portsmouth, which is mad for the fact that these are, like, I'm not, like, toot my own horn. Like, I'm trying to be humble as possible. But, like, I'm, well, one of the top 3 goalkeepers in the whole of the country. Some say Europe by coaches, but I don't earn a penny from playing football. You represent your countries at World Cups and Euros and whatever tournaments, and I've never earned a penny from doing that. You step out in like thousands of fans wearing like sponsors and everything, but I've never earned a penny for like playing for England, which is mental. If you look at like the top echelons of like your Jude Bellinghams of the world and them sorts of people that are in the 1% of the world that are like absolutely incredible at football and representing England, and they're earning good money to do so. Whereas in my sake, I've never earned a penny for doing so, which is rubbish, because if you look at abroad in like Poland and Turkey and Italy and places like that, they're earning good money to play football. Whereas you look at England and think like one of the most developed countries in the world, they're obsessed with football. Football's the full culture here. So you'd think that we'd still be way ahead of everyone. And if you look at the ability, we're still way ahead of everyone. But in regards to the financial side and the backing of the sport and the funding, it's really not there. So that's why I've had to go abroad to start earning money through the ability, because I don't want to be 40-year-old and then, England's eventually caught up and I might be able to get a small contract in England. Yeah. I was like, I need to go out, and you're only a footballer for 20 years if you're lucky. So I need to kind of make sure it counts while I still can.
Yeah, but definitely that will definitely surprise people that you're not earning the money that you certainly deserve to be. Can you look at it in comparisons to women's football? And obviously they push for equal
absolutely.
pay. Would you be saying equal pay, or would you be saying that Portsmouth should be looking after you? Sure, that's what I think. I'm sure you'd agree. So how can they sort it? And
I think the conversation of equal pay for like men's, women's, or like amputee football, it's like, it's not a fair argument in my eyes. I think the money you bring in should be directly corresponding to the money that you were earning. And if we're not earning the money that Real Madrid, Liverpool, Chelsea, Portsmouth are bringing in on their gate receipts, and we don't deserve the money through that regard. But I know that there's a lot of like funding towards women's football. I'd say that like amputee football is in a position that women's football is probably about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where there's eyes now. People are realising they're good at football. Like, there's an audience there, and there's definitely that for amputee football. If you look abroad, there's an audience there. You can pack out stadiums. There's professional clubs. There's diehard fans that'll go home and away watching clubs. Whereas England, like, they recognise that the amputee football gets loads of views on social media, and people will see clips and go like, how is he doing that with one leg? Like, how is he racing past people on crutches? So people understand there's an audience, people are interested to know what's going on, but there's still just not the funding. People aren't aware enough. There's not enough sponsors in the game to be able to allow that. So I can't go here and say like, look, he's earning 200 grand a week playing for Arsenal, I deserve the same, which is completely not fair to say, because the money that they're bringing in for their commercial size or the product that they're offering isn't the same. Hopefully we can get there one day, but I mean, the argument's hard to make at this point because of the external factors. Obviously money rules the world, so that's what the realistic is.
Yeah, and then you went into Big Brother, and we'll talk about that more later, but is that part of the reason why you might have went in? That obviously you can be the face of amputee football. You said you're one of the top 3 keepers in Europe. Yeah. Coaches have said, I won't say you feel about yourself. If you are the figurehead and you can make it more public, is that what you're trying to do to get more money into it? Or is it not in like a bad way? Is that just for you and to further yourself?
So my idea of going into Big Brother was, as growing up as a kid, I had no one on television that I thought like, you're my role model, because I think as a role model, you could have someone like you can relate with them. They look like you. They've got a similar story. They've got similar things that they've achieved. And I looked on telly and I thought, right, I've got one leg, one arm, and I'm obsessed with football. Who am I going to like? Because I can try see I like Steven Gerrard, who's like I'm watching I like Liverpool in Premier League. And like if you start looking at similarities, you're pretty much stopping at football. And I can start looking at someone that might have like one leg, and I'm like, we don't have the same aims, we don't have the same sort of stuff. So for me, there was no one I looked up and like been like a role model, because maybe not because they weren't there, but I didn't know who they weren't on the telly, they weren't regular, didn't have followers and stuff like that. So my idea was, if I can potentially be that person, I'm far from perfect. Like I'm 21-year-old. I'm far from like a role model and someone that like should look up to. But I think as a kid, like with a disability or whatever, like growing up, or not even just being an amputee, or just like looking a little bit different to everyone else, and looking for that representation on like national television or Instagram or YouTube, whatever. I wanted to potentially be that person for them kids growing up, because I know for a fine fact that when I was growing up, there was no one that looked like me. So I'm hoping that through the coverage of going on Big Brother and through like doing YouTube events and like my amputee football starting to get more and more views, that potentially, hopefully, when kids are growing up that are looking a little bit different, whether it's having one hand or one leg or autism, Down syndrome, or like just potentially just a slight thing that's like I can't really relate to everyone. Hopefully I can then be the little outlier where I can kind of relate to his story with the fact that the things he's done or the way he looks, or the fact that there's a whole lot of people on telly, but you can tell that guy's not the same as them. So that's what my aim was with going on Big Brother. And hopefully I know I haven't achieved it yet, but in the years to come, that I can get to that sort of level where people can recognise and go, that sort of guy is a person I want to be like.
Yeah, well, that's boss, and that's definitely admirable. And I think being from Liverpool, people have a similar opinion about Scousers and that. Yeah. I'm not trying to compare this in any way. It's very different.
Those are the Scousers with disability.
There's a link off here, don't worry. But we've had former guests on. We had Howard Gale, who was the first black player to play for Liverpool.
Yeah.
We had Ian Byrne on, he's an MP. He's got a very thick Scouse accent. And we had one of our most recent guests was Shamrock, who's a MMA fighter, also from Liverpool. And he was looking at how like Paddy the Baddy was fighting, stuff like that. And unless you have representation for yourself, then you don't feel like you can do it. I'm not comparing Scouse to them. You're probably better at football,
You're going to be bad for that.
But you know what I'm trying to say is that you still want someone to look up to, because I have no interest in politics. But when I had Ian Byrne, I was like, I'd never even considered anyone other than the poshest, oldest white men in the world can be a politician. So you need to see someone who does it for you. And obviously, you're not the first amputee footballer, because there's other people there. But if you want to try and put it out there to other people, it's admirable to do.
Yeah, exactly. If I could bring more eyes to the sport, then it's a happy world. If the fact that through seeing me act silly on television for a few weeks then makes people think, I know that it's good, the fact that like people that didn't know me before, like I don't think you know me before the show, and then say like, oh, I name an amputee footballer, and you can think of one quite easily and be myself, and I'm like, my job's done. Like I've grown amputee football further, but like people maybe didn't know what amputee football was before I went on Big Brother, and now they know. Like whether they're going to go watch it every week, that's not the biggest issue, but the fact that it's got into more people's eyes, people understand what it is. There's a platform, there's a rehabilitation program for someone that might lose one leg, or someone might say, you know what, oh, your kid's been born with one leg, it's not the end of the road, you can still have a footballing journey. So hopefully, even indirectly, not turn up at games, the fact that people are aware of it, they might like some posts on social media, might follow me because of it, and it really builds sport and potentially get to a level that we want it to be one day.
Yeah, and then just a couple more questions on it. Sorry. What are the levels of it in the amputee football? Now you've got one hand. Yeah, but I've seen like some of the drills you have more than one hand when you do it. Yeah, and then you obviously you have one leg, but you obviously I can see that you have two legs. You know what I mean? So is there like rules where you're only allowed to have one leg in some games, or is there different leagues, or how's it all categorized?
So there's like a broad range. So at international level, which is the highest level, where like you represent like England, Turkey, Ireland, whatever, the strict rules of outfielders have one leg and they play on crutches. So they've got a leg deficiency. Like for example, like I have one leg, so like if I was to take my leg off, I'd have to go around and this one wouldn't touch the ground. I could only be able to use this leg, and I'd be moving around on crutches. And then as goalkeeper would have just one arm, and that can be amputated, like mine's amputated like the wrist, so it could be amputated like the elbow, shoulder, whatever, but like you'd play with it inside to keep it on like a level playing field, because otherwise if someone lost their arm at a shoulder and I've lost an arm, I get a bit of an advantage on that, so I can't have an advantage on another person with disability. That's getting a bit too far again. But then you've got like some like inclusive sports, which is more like what's the local level, so like you're in the community programs where like it offers people the chance to play with the leg on, because they might not be comfortable in going on crutches, or don't want to take the leg off because they're still used to like rehabilitation programs. So it offers them a chance to play football again without trying to put them in like a strict professional environment, just getting the love for the game again. Because they might have lost that for like, no one would play grassroots football because they've lost the leg, but they can now play with the prosthetic leg on and play football again. So there's different levels. Obviously, I play at like the top level in regards to like, I only worry about the professional side of things, but if you look at like towards like the more local game and the getting people back within the sport that potentially lost the leg or just trying to be active despite the disability, that's where like the sort of thing where it's very inclusive and pan disability would be the sense. But Obviously, I've got both, so I'm a bit knackered, aren't I? Like, I've really fitted the quarter, aren't I? But like, obviously, I'd say I got bit by a shark. I think every person that has one arm or one leg got bit by a shark, which I definitely didn't. I was just born with it, but it's a more interesting story to go. Like, for example, a kid doesn't want to hear, "Oh, I was just born with it." They want to hear the biggest shark was there at the River Mersey, and it took me off my surfboard, which is like what they want to hear, because they're like, "Oh my god!" But obviously, like, I didn't. But I think the people that are, once they get to a higher age, I think, to be fair, actually, no, the amount of times I've went out and told someone I got bit by a shark and they went like, and I've never spoken to them again. There's probably a fair few people out there that understand that probably didn't get bit by a shark, but that's what I told them on a night out.
And then, so I've seen clips of you, obviously playing in goal, and you do drills against other keepers, and you've got the two legs when you're doing it.
Yeah.
Is it easier for you, and do you reckon in general, playing with a prosthetic leg than playing with crutches? And is that like learning a totally new sport, having to do that?
Yeah, so like I couldn't play on crutches. I'd be going around in a circle, to be honest. Like, I wasn't built for that, clearly. But the players that play on crutches are incredible. Like, they're not just like people that have had a disability and then turned to football. Like, you got some footballers, like my best mate in amputee football, a guy called James Tragaskis, and he was at Man City's academy, and he's like an absolutely incredible footballer. Like I look at that guy and I think, like, unbelievable. Like, you could put him on a pitch with like professional players and he'd just keep up the pace with them. He's got creativity that some players have got. Like, if you got the opportunity to go have a look at what this guy can do with football, and you think like, wow, this guy should be getting paid thousands to be doing what he's doing. But if you look at like the centre, like goalkeepers and outfielders, there's a very much a thing that you want to try compete in the sorts of things that they can do as a goalkeeper, especially with like most goalkeepers have two legs. Not me, but like I'm the only double amputee to ever represent England, which is something I'm quite proud of, and the fact that I know for a fine fact I didn't look up at anyone looking like me that managed to do what I've done. So like I said, hopefully I can be that person for the people in the next coming. But like, I seen them play a ball and I'm like, fair play, like, fellas, like, I'll leave that on to you. I'm gonna go save your shots and you carry on doing what you're doing. But yeah, fair play to them.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. I wasn't aware of that myself, and sorry for not being. But yeah, that's certainly impressive. And as you say, they're being the trailblazer for that is certainly inspirational. Yeah. However, you are also a Wigan fan, so
yeah, I know that's just sort of a disability in itself, honestly.
I didn't want to say that, but I opened you up for it. But yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about Wigan as well. Yeah. But just first of all, why are you a Wigan fan? You said you're from Cumbria. Well,
yeah, I know. I feel like within football, you always take your dad's team, and my dad's side of the family's from Wigan, so I've been unfortunately blessed the fact that Wigan's naturally fell upon me. Obviously, you got like some of your favourite, like obviously you'll forever like your hometown team, like Carlisle. I always want Carlisle to do well, and like. But Wigan's always the one that I'm like, if Carlisle lose, it's not the end of the world. Like, I want my hometown team to do well. I'd rather have them win, because a lot of my mates are Carlisle fans, but Wigan's the one that I'm like, that'll ruin my weekend when they lose. So.
Well, and they, like, the last guest we had in, it was James Allen, who was part of the Cultura's podcast, who did the Barclaysmen. Yeah. And Wigan are like probably one of the peak of Barclaysmen.
People remember Barclays football with like Wigan in it, and like West Ham, like with the old badge, like Bolton involved with it, and like we are a Barclays club. Like, footy, we fell off, like, but
that's what I was gonna say. So how did you go from the season that you won the FA Cup? It wasn't like all perfect in the league, but for being in a team that was consistently in and around, obviously battling near the bottom-ish, but still near and about.
We were never like incredible, like we were never like high and fly and like randomly caught like a Europa League spot. We're never that team, but we were always like the drips and drabs, similar to like Everton State recently. But the fact you look at the potentially getting relegated, we're always one of them clubs that like survival and floating around like between like the maybe like 14th to 17th sort of range. And then obviously the year we won the FA Cup, we somehow, I don't know how we won the FA Cup and got relegated the same season. That is mental. Like, that's borderline unheard of, to know that in fact you can, like, we beat Man City, Roberto Mancini's Man City, on the FA Cup final with all the stars that they could have had, and then couldn't beat a team like Blackburn away. Like, what's going on there? But we rose to a big occasion. We were there for a day and then got relegated the same season. Honestly impressive. And then from there we were bouncing around. Remember, as soon as we, like, the first year we got into the playoffs in the Championship and then lost to QPR. I think I remember Charlie Austin doing that to us, and I was gutted. And then just poor financial management. I think we were, the amount of times we've been in administration felt like I was in a broken cycle of every other year, and like point deduction, not paying wages, owners selling the club, this and that. And then we've eventually fell into being mid-table in League One, which is some fall off from a club that was so forever a Premier League club. So, yeah, not the best time to Wigan fan.
And then, so you're 21, so I'm just trying to figure, how old were you when they won the FA Cup?
I was 9.
So
9, 10. I remember watching it with my dad in my back room, and I remember he lifted me up so high that my head hit the ceiling when that Ben Watson goal went in, and it was probably the best moment ever as a Wigan fan. And maybe even a few years later when we beat Man City again, but FA Cup Wigan are a different gravy, to be honest.
Well, I was just going to say, so it must be annoying that you kind of missed out on the glory years, and then obviously what followed hasn't been great for Wigan fans, as you said. So what do you think needs to happen in order for Wigan to go win the FA Cup again, or to be back in the Prem? We've
got an incredible academy. Like our academy products are very, very good, and we'll always, as a Wigan, we'll always pride ourselves on our ability to produce good academy players. You look at recent times, got Alfie Devine at Tottenham, he's Wigan, Joe Geldart, Wigan, and even the development of certain players. Like you look at some players that have spent the time at Wigan, from like Charlie Hughes, just wanted to hold his at Wigan prospect, and there's so many that have went through like Wigan to then go, like even Reece James, his years at Wigan allowed him to then be the player that he became before he kept getting injured. But you look at the fact that we then need to reinvest. We've got a billionaire owner, Mike Danson, who's like a local Wigan. Obviously, he's more of a Wigan Warriors, worried about that aspect of the fact that he owns both clubs within Wigan. But we then should reinvest from our academy into just League One winning players, because we've got the products already. We just need them few stars that can push you into a higher division. And the trust in the academy will eventually get us there, because we produce that many stars. And if we just keep hold of these players, they can propel us. But there's always a revolving door at Wigan between a major academy prospect, a bid comes in for 5 million, gone, see you later. 100k replacement, money in between's just reinvested, and then you're like, it's just a hard time to be a Wigan fan.
And then, obviously, you don't live very close to Wigan. Do you go the game off and
I'm a season ticket holder at Wigan. I tried to get to everything. Obviously, I still play. So it's very, very hard to then try and find a weekend where I can go. So it's whether it's like my brother's using my ticket or my dad or whatever, for the fact that they can just go, because obviously if I'm playing in Portsmouth, or like when I was playing in Poland, I'm obviously not able to make it to many games. But I'll try to go whenever I can, but otherwise I'm always just on flash scores and looking at our lineups and thinking oh dear, please don't get beat again. But
does that work, that wish?
Nah. Unless it's Bolton. We always beat Bolton. I love it when we beat them. I love it.
And then, is there an amputee Wigan team? Is that a dream, or is that just unattainable?
I'd love there to be an amputee Wigan team, because I don't care what situation I'd be in. I'd go start the club if I need to. I'd be the main investor if I needed. I'd be paying players 40 quid a game just to play for me. But just to say that I've played for the club that I support, but not yet. Maybe the dream though. Maybe the dream.
Well, yeah, you're only 21. You got plenty.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone's watching, please, I just want to wear a Wigan shirt, man.
And then, what is the best game that you've seen? Is it the FA Cup final, or is there a more recent one maybe?
That's a good question. A few years later, we played Man City again at DW in the prime Will Grigg era, and we beat them again. And this was at the peak of Man City's incredible era under Pep. And Will Grigg raced Kyle Walker home and scored, and that was when we had Dan Burn and that on our team. That game was that's when we were League One as well, versus the Premier League champions, and we knocked them out at home. That was incredible. Either that or we always beat Bolton 4-0, and I love them sort of games, because that's the rivalry. That's it's one of the rivalries that don't even get spoke about in English football. They talk about the big rivalries, but them clubs hate each other. And it's not much of a rivalry because they haven't beat us in 10 years. So it is a rivalry, but yeah, I love them sorts of games, man.
Yeah, well, I've got a mate who's a Bolton fan. I've got a mate who's a Preston fan.
I'm sorry about that.
I've got a mate who's a Preston fan as well. And you said that area of the world, there's a lot of hatred.
Yeah, Greater Manchester, North West, majorly.
And then did you go to that game? Sorry, the City match.
No, I remember watching it on the telly again, because it was a midweek and I was still in school.
Yeah, well,
inconsiderate my parents not sending me to that. I'm guessing they probably thought we were going to get battered, but I mean,
yeah, their fault then. So, what's the best game that you've been to, lad? Doesn't have to have been Wigan. It could be any game.
Oh, not just Wigan. It probably would be a Wigan Bolton 4-0, 4-zip at their place as well. James McLean. What a player. Controversial name, but what a player.
What is the greatest era of football?
2010s is instantly the one that, obviously that's the one I've grew up in, so it's very, very biased of me to say, but I think we're absolutely spoiled in the players that are playing that generation. From your people that are like retiring at early generation towards that, even the players that played all the way throughout to like your Messi, Ronaldos, and then sort of the players, you got them players that like drop out halfway through, like your Rooney's and stuff like that. But I think that era we are spoiled. You've got potentially one of the best teams ever in Barcelona's side. You've got Ronaldo's Real Madrid. You're spoiled in the AC Milan side, the Liverpool side. You've got so many teams in that 2010s. So for me, 2010 to the 2010s in general would be the greatest era. But obviously that is a biased opinion. I grew up in that era.
I think that's everyone's answer first, but the era I grew up in is what everyone likes the most.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's very, very fair.
But I do think that, as you say, the Barclays era and things like late noughties and stuff like mid-10s, I think that will certainly be looked back at.
The Barclays,
And then obviously the ball that they're playing with now in the Premier League, that whole time.
The classic Nike ball.
Will always be reflected on well. And obviously just carrying on, we're going to talk more about Wigan and your top fives and stuff like that, but just how much would it mean for Wigan to go back to the Premier League for you, and how many years will it be till it happens?
That's a very hard question. For me, like, even seeing Wigan get to they were so close to losing the club. We've become so close to it. So I think as a fan, you'll never truly like understand what a football club means to you until they get right on the brink of death. And as a Wigan fan, that comes pretty much every 2-3 years at this point. But I think even we can get promotion out of League One again after like quite a few years now. We've had like meddling between like mid-table of League One and like pretty much being on like the death's door to like getting relegated, but like further down, and like the full reliance on the club and like the full community feel, like how it's unheard of the fans having to then fundraise to keep the club open, and that's what we had to do as Wigan fans. So even getting into Championship would be enough for me. Like I'd love it. To say we're not back where we belong, because we wouldn't be back. We're not a Championship club. Everyone remembers Wigan for being a Premier League club, but even just getting to that point where like we're closer, we're one random season away. We've got the chance to be in the Premier League. Like, in League One, there's no chance. But even if we're the one of the worst team in the Championship, there's a chance that something miraculous could happen and be a Premier League club. But the main thing that needs to really happen is the obvious answer, investment. Obviously, in the area where Greater Manchester, there's some massive clubs of like your Man Cities, Man United. Obviously, there's some clubs around the corner like your Liverpool, Everton, or whatever. But for me, it's just the investment. You need them. You need the sort of facilities. I'd say we've got the facilities. We should need the players on the pitch to then perform, and the fact that if we put a lot of money into our club and we get the products back, we get on the pitch results, and you've got always that constant stream, like I was speaking about, of youth players that every 2-3 years we saw them for 5-6 whatever million. If we just keep them sort of players around for an extra 2-3 years to help push us into them latter stages of competitions, but hey ho, it'll happen eventually. I do trust it will happen eventually.
Well, one day, but then let's reflect on the past again. I'm going to go for your top 5 Wigan players of all time, and if you can give us a 5-1 if possible, please. So
I'd say starting at 5. Oh, I'm trying to remember what I put. I think I put Charles Nzogbeer at 5. Who for me was like our Barclays era. I think I remember everyone knows a bit of a Charles, but like the unknown ballers, like streets won't forget the prime Charles Nzogbeer. But who did I put him for? Who did I put him for? I potentially put him for like a Hugo Rodallega. That's like another Barclays man. 3rd, Reece James. I potentially even put Reece James at 2. Just not through the fact that he was there for a year, but like best players to pull on a shirt. He was like 19 at the time, but please don't take that away from him. That's not me just saying that, because he's now like sometimes the best right back in the world, or like, well, on his day when he randomly turns up. But like the time he spent at Wigan, we finished like, I think like 17th or something that year, but he was in the team of the season for a reason, because he deserved it. He played in like centre defensive midfield that year. So that was 3rd. 2nd, I'm trying to not forget about anyone major here. My number 1, number 2, Nick Powell. If you know Nick, but do you know Nick Powell?
You're the second Wigan fan we've had in, he also loved Nick Powell.
I love Nick Powell. He should have never left Wigan. He was Wigan let him train like once a week if we're lucky, because he's always that injury prone. He had the perfect system out that was like, just turn up a few times, knock a few balls around, and then on matches, as long as you turn up, that's all right. And I remember it's League One season when like Bradley Dack, him and Bradley Dack were competing to be the best number 10 in the league, and Nick Powell was different gravy. He was Man United for a long while, like an academy prospect, and it just never worked out for him, but it worked out at Wigan. And the number one, the best person I've ever seen pull on a Wigan shirt is Will Grigg. Like, the excitement he brought back to fans. There's no one in League One that has ever finished in the UEFA top 50. Will Grigg came 25th in League One. He had the full country singing Will Grigg's on fire. He's a League One striker from Northern Ireland. What's going on there? Actually, were we even Championship at the time? I think we were maybe Championship at the time. We were a yo-yo club that often. He probably was both. But Will Grigg's the best person. But obviously, all I remember is like James McLean. It's controversial name. I love the fella though. He done absolute work at Wigan. Got some players in there that just absolutely Yannick Wilchuk for like a random year, and I'm saying random names now, but I don't want to bore you with my Wigan lore. But what a club!
Well, I'd say there was the second Wigan fan that we've had in, and he had similar love for. Also, Will Grigg, I think he came third in his. Yeah. I think he was saying he was a League One striker. Yeah. He couldn't. He was nowhere near as good in the Championship, but he was absolutely League One in League One. So, like, obviously, you need those players, and then I'd say like a Nick Powell, who I think went to Stoke, was it right?
Nick Powell straight after it. I think he did go to Stoke. Yeah.
I think they because I think I did a clip out of him saying it, and they were all like, "He's terrible. What are you talking about?" But then all the Wigan fans like, "No, he's like one of the greatest I've ever seen."
Stoke's bollocks for like 3 years.
Yeah, and then, so like, is it hard when you're a yo-yo club between League One and the Championship to get too attached to players? Because I'm guessing the gulf between quality and League One and the Championship, even when you see the Premier League teams now, I'm recording the bottom three of the teams who got promoted. Yeah. So is it hard to find players that you can actually cling on to who are good enough to stay there, but also loyal enough to stay there?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the fact that normally when you get promoted, especially like you get promoted kind of like in emphatic fashion, like sometimes Wigan do when we go up at League One, to then say like, all right, he's going to stay around and like not move on to like a mid-table club in the Championship, whatever. Or like you then try to say like them young players that are like, oh, well, he's done amazing in League One. He's surely got the ability because he's very only young to go into the Championship, but then you'll see them struggle, which so it is quite hard to like say like, oh, like I absolutely love this fella in League One, but he's just not cutting the mustard in the Championship, and you don't want to say, oh, go get a new striker in like just after we've he scored 30 goals in the in League One. I'm like, oh, no, just let Will Grigg settle, let Nick Powell stay there, man. But it is hard. Like I do fully agree in the fact that trying to get connected to players that just might not be good enough to cut it at this level, that might miss one too many chances at that level, or that might don't quite have the tactical knowledge, don't have the physical capabilities. But some players do, like Sam Morsey, for example. He was Wigan through and through, and then he took a step to Ipswich when Ipswich were League One with us, but he was Championship League One. He was that yo-yo club, and you'd think, oh, he's just like a League One Championship sort of player. And then he went to Ipswich and he went League One Championship, and now he plays in the Premier League of Ipswich. So then you could say maybe a conversation of, is that really a thing? But I think it's just the tactical systems, and certain players can be very coachable into different styles of play. And if you've got an incredible footballer, it can be an incredible footballer at any level. It's just what tactical system you then put them in.
Yeah, and obviously they need to grow with the team as well. So I think the Harry Robinson, that was the other Wigan fan we had in, I think he also put Reece James in, and so I almost feel bad doing it because he was there.
Yeah, exactly that.
When you can tell someone's that much better. Do you reckon that helps other players? And like, obviously they're in League One at the time or the Championship, and you're looking at them and go, he's loads better than us. So does that just like you must just feel a bit deflated that I'm just nowhere near as good as this kid, basically, or do you reckon it lifts everyone else and makes the whole team better?
I think you can look at it on two sides of the coin. Like, we were in the Championship at that time, and he was like, it was obvious that he was the best player on the pitch every single game that he went into. He's 19-year-old on loan from Chelsea, and I mean, like, people can look at it and say that's what the loan system's for, to bring the players from the top 6 Premier League clubs down to the lower divisions to gain experience and show off quality, to then go back to their parent club and perform. But obviously you can look at players thinking like, listen, I'm 27-year-old, I've played all across the EFL, and this guy's just walked into the team and he's banged in like 10 goals from right back, and like, what's going on here? So you can look at it and feel a bit demoralised. You can look at the fact that, wow, we've now got so like absolute talent on our team, the fact that we can then even gives us another platform to perform. Like, people are coming to watch this guy. Why can't they come to watch me? Why why when they come to Wigan, can they not come out remembering my name as well?
Yeah.
So I think you look at two sides of the coin, the fact that it's another person that brings results to the club. If you really as a player obsessed with playing for the football club, you then say like, oh, this guy's getting us wins. This makes my life easier. I get more win bonuses when this guy's playing. So I think players enjoy it. Like especially as a player myself, that sometimes you're on a team, you can realise this guy gets me wins. I love this bloke. So it doesn't matter whether the guy's 19-year-old or 34 returning to the club as his boyhood club. If this guy gets you wins, he gets your little win bonus extra in the kitty. I'm going to be very, very happy player walking off the pitch when he plays.
Yeah, so he must have had a similar impact on goalkeepers in the England team when you came into the first double amputee, and you probably felt a bit gutted that you were taking their place. But we'll go on in the top 5 players of all time now. Again, if you can go 5 to 1, if you've got an order, or if you just want to do any 5, that's fine.
Top 5 all time. Obviously, this is like. This would be from I don't include like Pele in mine because I've never seen the bloke play, so I don't think it's fair to do it. But completely contradicting that fact, I'm putting Maradona in 5th, just through like the fact I've seen these highlights. I've seen a whole lot of players speak about this guy. I've seen the goals. Like obviously, I think they're a little bit different. I mean, you've got quite a few years between Pele and Maradona, so I'll edge Maradona through the fact that I've seen this bloke play. In number 4, who'd I put in number 4? Ronaldinho, for the simple fact of I loved watching play. He was slightly before my era, but still in the era of the fact that I can see what's going on. He was like 90s, 2000s sort of player, like probably the late 2000s, where you can see a whole lot of like the Brazilian flair. You could probably say he had all the tools to be one of the best, probably the best player ever, but he's Brazilian, he loved the party lifestyle, so you could say a fair play at the end of the day. 3rd, this is a weird one because this is a player that I studied quite heavily in Johan Cruyff. For his like the way that he's changed the game, not just like as a manager, he did it a lot as a manager, but the way he played technically was way ahead of his time. And I know I'm sounding like a melon now, picking players from the olden days, of like the fact that I didn't watch him, but I'd studied this guy so much, and like even hearing him speak about football, his philosophies were like you look at this guy's finger, he would not look out of place in today's game, especially with the reinvention of the 10 in this new style of the Premier League, and I'm absolutely loving that, might I add. So I'd have it number 3, and then 2 Ronaldo, 1 Messi. I grew up as a Ronaldo fan, but I think it's his last 5 years. You can't dispute the World Cup, the fact he's still playing into his late years, and just watching Messi, man, like you just love watching it. But I still have forever have a soft spot for Ronaldo, but that's my 5.
That's a really good 5. Pick up on Johan Cruyff, what you said there. I think watched the interview, I'm not sure we saw it, Neil Warnock and Pep Guardiola. I think Neil Warnock asked him about Cruyff, and he was saying like, what was he that advanced when he started coaching? And it was like before even the video analysis and all that, Cruyff was still picking apart the other team, telling them what they're going to do, and like all about the shape, how you're doing your patterns of play and all stuff like that. So first of all, how important do you think Johan Cruyff was to football? And then also, I know you said you mentioned you do analysis as well, so like how has he impacted me, what you do?
I think as a player, if you look at him solely as a player, you look at the fact that he could literally walk through a game and be in the right place at the right time and have the right touch. And like obviously people remember like the Cruyff term, but that's not what he was synonymous for, in the fact that the guy's sense of football and like IQ is completely off the charts. And I feel like the great natural progression was him to be going to the coaching side of things. And if you look at his time at Barcelona, and the fact that the players he's nurtured through that sense, or even the side that he's just then the managers that he's brought like some he worked on worked with Pep Guardiola at Barcelona. Pep Guardiola would not be the same guy without the Cruyff influence at the start of his career. So I think the sense that he brought, even the video analysis sort of things, that picking apart like certain players in the 0.1%, like at the elite level football, that they're all that matter. Every single player that goes out on them pitches at the elite levels of the Premier Leagues, Champions Leagues, La Liga, etc., are elite footballers. It's the 0.1% of your tactics, your nutrition, your analysis of your opposition, and he really brought that to the game. I think some managers ahead of him like tweaked it from like I think Arsene Wenger was very vital towards the Premier League, and how he tweaked from like nutrition pre-games and stuff like that, or even Sir Alex Ferguson, like they tweaked it. I think Johan Cruyff was really one of them pioneers that started working at them 0.1%. So I think football really wouldn't be the same without him. And if it would be the same, I think we'd still be years behind of development if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, and I say he's not someone that always comes up in the top five, but I reckon he's like 7th. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying you're wrong to put him in your top five. I think that's why he just doesn't get spoken about enough. But if you see, many attribute Guardiola for being why every League Two team tries to play from the back, never mind the Premier League. So for him to have influenced Guardiola so much, you can obviously span it right back. I think as well, didn't he sacked off Ajax and went to Feyenoord and won the league with them as well. Like just that spikes the
and they still named a stadium after him, so they're just like, honestly, respect for him.
So he's like, again, that just shows how good he must have been. So that's your top 5 Wigan, your top 5 all time. And now you can pick Wigan or all time or yourself, but an all time 5-a-side team. Hello everyone, just a really quick message to remind you about our Patreon. From just £1 a month, you can support the podcast, and in return, you get an extra section at the end of each interview where I ask the questions that you send in from home. There's also a monthly quiz where we do stuff like Family Fortunes, Pointless, The Chase, loads of other stuff. Previous guests, new faces, it's always a good laugh, always worth a watch. That comes out every single month. And now, exclusively, there's a new benefit. You get entered into a prize draw for signed items like this. So this is from John Scales. It's a 94 to 96 kit for Liverpool, signed by John, and this is thanks to exclusive private signings who have given us a load of shirts that we're going to give away, one each month. So all you got to do is get over to patreon.com/the Football Historian Podcast. You can win a signed shirt, extra section, a quiz every month. What more do you want? Back the podcast, back the lads. Let's get back to the episode.
Also, I probably throw myself in it. I wouldn't really. If it was 5-a-side team, 5-a-side's a different game as well. So I'm putting on like the way they play a 5-a-side football. Neuer in net. Obviously, the keeper I grew up watching reinvented the sweeper keeper look. There's a few players who've done it before, but he was the real guy that popularised it and really was very, very good at it. And he'd kill it at 5-a-side for the way you play out and just obviously mint at saving shots. Defence, I'm going to go with a rogue one. Dani Alves. Loved watching Dani Alves. And I think he'd kill it out of 5-a-side as well. I think every 5-a-side team needs that little guy that'll be everywhere on the pitch. He'll be happy to not have the ball. He's a little ratty on the ball. He'll throw plays into walls. I think Dani Alves would do that in my 5-a-side team. I'll have Van Dijk next to him though, because Van Dijk can play a 5-a-side. You go anywhere in that half and he'll just be there. He'll be in and around blocking shots, nullifying any sort of attack, and then we'll play into attack. And then I'm always going to go Messi, because Messi would work in any way of football. It doesn't matter if you're playing 5-a-side, 7-a-side, 2-a-side, 11-a-side, 25-a-side. You'll still notice the fact that Messi's the best player on the pitch, and I think he'd kill it at 5-a-side. And then for pure enjoyment of watching football, I'll go Neymar, just for the simple fact of 5-a-side just about beating a man and getting a shot off. And is there anyone better than that have done it than Neymar? I'd even put Ronaldinho in the conversation of that, but either that or I'd put like someone just like ratty like Suarez, and just like he'll shoulder bag someone off, or like he'll turn up with his full kit to 5-a-side sort of player. So
not wrong with that. Yeah. And then you'll have one super sub. Who would it be?
Oh, super sub. Oh no. Oh, Busquets.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely love Busquets, and I'll get onto that later. I'll even swap out Neymar for Busquets. Obviously, a completely different change of a player. But that guy would kill it at 5-a-side. He wouldn't need to move. Yeah. He literally wouldn't need to move. He'd stand in the middle of the pitch and dictate the full play. But literally, I'm pretty much like a Busquets enthusiast of how good that guy is at football. And I remember one quote of like seeing Busquets and saying it was if you watch the full game you won't see Busquets, but if you watch Busquets you'll see the full game for the way he floats around and his IQ. He's constantly scanning. His first touch is incredible. So that guy, unbelievable player. Just throw him anywhere and he'll do well.
Well, I'll go straight into it then. The most underrated player of all time.
Yeah, Sergio Busquets. He's the best 6 ever. People speak about Spanish midfielders and they'll instantly think of Iniesta, Xavi Alonso, David Silva, them sort of players, and they won't mention Sergio Busquets, who is the best 6 ever, in my opinion. He was never physically the best player on the pitch. He was always tall. He's always had some strength, but he's never ever had the pace. But how quick he fought, and the fact that he already had the image ahead of the other players, he knew how this was going to play out 5 seconds before it happened. It forever made up for the fact that he wasn't physically as fast as everyone, wasn't able to perform some things that other players done, but on the ball, different gravy.
Yeah, very good player. And you can even see what he's doing now in Messi's retirement club. They're just having a great time. They're all old mates, but still, how great he was, and even playing for Spain still recently and all that. He's
put him perfectly between the midfield and defence, pick up the ball for centre back and just go whiz a pass somewhere else, or do a little tight turn around the corner and play another pass, because he doesn't need me to look, because he knows exactly how a player's going to go.
I think it's that position though, as well. You say defensive mid, you never realise you've got the right one till they're injured, or so you
exactly that. And like you look at looks like City's side with like the lack of Rodri, and I think if you didn't have Busquets in that like era of Barcelona football, you'd severely notice, and it would have limited the fact that the things that their players can do on the other end of the pitch of like your Neymars, or even like your David Villa's sort of era of Barcelona. If you didn't have Busquets, you don't have the license to then go forward and do the things that they've done.
And then we'll go from that, from most underrated to the most overrated player of all time.
I'll go recently. I don't understand why Donnarumma is rated so highly. I don't want to speak negatively about goalkeepers, because I know it's a really hard position, but people put him in the conversation of like best goalkeeper in the world, and like physically he's got all the attributes, but I've just never really rated him. In complete honesty, I feel like he's very error prone. I think like for the shots that he does that a goalkeeper should save, he does save, but then the stops where you look like the world class keepers, I don't think he really does it. So I'd probably say he's one of the most overrated players of all time. But that's obviously recent. Like it's really easy to say that. I didn't put Neymar in the conversation, potentially, to be fair. I do enjoy watching him. I think he's a very, very good footballer. I just think people put him in conversations that he doesn't really belong sometimes, because I don't think he's ever really done it by himself. I don't really think he has that star X factor that can change a game.
Yeah. Okay. And then last two before we go into some debates, which is the greatest manager of all time.
I think that's undebatable in Sir Alex Ferguson. If you look at the time from like St Mirren or Aberdeen to then doing that at Man United, I think that guy's. I think it's even undebatable, to be honest. I think it'd be quite rare to come across someone that has a very complete different opinion to Sir Alex Ferguson being the best manager of all time.
Yeah, well, I ask him every time. He definitely gets a mention. I wouldn't say he's like run away winning it, but I think Guardiola, Ancelotti, Klopp, Shankly, I've mentioned. Obviously, you see where I record and the rest support, that probably has an impact on it. But yeah, I think you can't really argue against. I don't think anyone's saying it's wrong, but there's definitely maybe a debate.
I think you look from the fact that he's like, for example, like St Mirren, he brought them from like the Scottish Championship to winning the Scottish League, or even Aberdeen to the similar position, to then go and being European Cup winners, and you're like, what? How's he doing that with Aberdeen in an era of like obviously Rangers, Celtic to be supposed to be the best teams like within Scotland dominance, and then the full revolution of the things he completed at Man United from the class of '92 to bringing a bunch of youth products to a treble winning side, and the dominance of English football, the two trebles. And I'm not a Man United fan, far from. I'd probably prefer Liverpool if it was any Premier League club, but I think that guy was just different gravy. He wasn't even the best like coach of all time. I think just an incredible manager. But yeah, for me, that's the best manager ever.
Yeah, and I'm probably being bitter because I do hate United.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
They never won never won a league for like 30 odd years before he arrived. It's been about 15 odd years since he left. They don't look like they're going to win it in the next 15 years. So as much as people like to say how big United are, which they are,
he's left his stamp well and
exactly.
Truly,
and I think if there's a big dip before him and after him, maybe it suggests that maybe it was because of him. They were that good. But I'm sure United fans will definitely disagree with that. But we'll carry on and we'll go to the greatest team of all time. So not like 1 to 11, an actual team in a period.
I think this one, it's not clear cut, is obviously this is football's a very, very opinionated game. But for me, it'd forever be like that Barcelona team of like, it's like 2008, 2011 sort of range, of like complete and utter dominance. For me, if you look at the players across the park, the way they played, the way they won games, like not even the fact that the games were won, but they were won in complete dominance. You can think of so many games. The one that I instantly think of the one versus Sir Alex Ferguson's Man United in Champions League, between that side, and it was complete over dominance. They played in such a weird formation of like probably even a lack of like attackers. They playing like Cesc Fabregas in like a wide position. You're like, what's going on here? But it just works. For me, that's the best. There's an argument for the AC Milan side of like 1987 range. So I can put that aside. Like I will not argue that in the sense of like your Marco van Basten era of like Hullet, Maldini. There's so many different players in that team that you can look at, absolute all-time legends. So I feel it's a very, very free argument to let someone say that. But for me, there'll be that 2008-11 time of Barcelona.
I was about to say, because a lot of people say Pep's Barcelona, but there was actually a few Pep's Barcelonas at the time. So I think the defence and midfield stayed similar, but what do you think was his best front three?
Obviously, the one it's not the same era. The MSN's not the same era, but I think the era where David Villa was at the club was, for me, that was the best era. Of like the fact that I think it's even more of a younger Leo Messi in that side. But I think the lineup was, if I remember correctly, would be Messi Villa Pedro, and it was that sort of era because I think the sense of David Villa being that sole number 9 was just
it was an unbelievable team, that one. And then for them, the Spain team that kind of came off it, and they just like sprinkled a few Real Madrid players in it to make it a bit better.
2012 World Cup win in Spain side, which, if I remember right, was just, I think the lineup that they won that one versus Netherlands in the final was, I think it was like 6 midfielders on the pitch. Of like, I'm pretty sure that a base 3 of like Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, and the attack was like, I remember Fabregas starting pretty much up front, and it was a crazy team. Like, you look at it and you feel like, what? How was that won? But
it was mad. It was, like you say, domination. That team at that period for so many people from Barcelona, from Spain as well, and then even when Mourinho came in and those El Clasicos, it was
that is like proper football.
that was the last time everyone actually watched Spanish football.
You're bang on.
Right, so now we're going to go into the debate.
The debate.
Where we settle the biggest debates in football history. So the first one is Gerrard, Lampard, and Scholes, and if you put them in order for us as well. Please.
Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes in that order for me. Scholes is I think it's very, very easy to look past him and what he achieved, and obviously the fact he's such a based winner, even his impact that he had on the game. But for me, like, he just didn't have that X factor of, I wouldn't go to watch a game to watch Paul Scholes. Gerrard I would, Lampard I would. Lampard was a better goal scorer than Gerrard, and I don't think anyone can really debate that. But for me, Gerrard just had that X factor of, like, if you had my exact thing in this argument, if you've got, I don't care what the chance is or where the ball is on the pitch, the 90th minute of the game, you need a goal or you need to create a chance. I don't care. I'm not asking, say, they need to score the goal, need to assist the goal. Who do you want in that moment? I think the answer will always be Gerrard. So he's just got that X factor. He's got that little 0.1% of why I'd always edge Steven Gerrard in them moments.
Well,
which you'll love that answer, to be fair.
I'll agree, But people can't see that side of the camera. You can't see how biased that room is for me.
Because it's just absolute Liverpool lore from years upon years from like recent history to going back years upon years. So I knew that answer would please you.
I'll give you that 5 after. Next one is Pele or Maradona.
So for me, this kind of runs back to the fact that I never really watched Pele. Obviously, this is well before my era, but I'd go Maradona for the stuff he achieved, and obviously he's a little cheating rat at the end of the day. But I will give them the edge.
Yeah, and then Pele's legacy is he won more World Cups than anyone else.
Yeah,
I think FIFA made the rule that they wanted like one stadium in every country named after him and all that. But a lot of people scoff at the idea that he scored that many goals and all stuff like that. So, what do you think his legacy will be remembered as going forward? Do you reckon he'll always be held that high, or as football?
I don't think he'll forever get held that high, because as a person who's growing up in I was born in 2004, so I think the person I always remember as being the best players ever was Ronaldo, Messi, which is obviously was spoiled for choice from being born this era. But for me, especially the big that happened in recent time, I think maybe 3 years ago, where he suddenly spawned another 200 goals because Messi was getting close, and I'm like, what's this? Obviously, if someone was 20 years ago, someone 41 told me that, or he was incredible and this and that, and I just have to go off what words passing down. But for me, I think spawning in goals from somewhere, and I think just the fact it just tarnishes his legacy in my sense of kind of just. I know we're spoiled for choice at the moment. The players that we've been absolutely blessed in there that I grew up in. But for me, it's just I don't buy that, to be honest.
Okay, that's fine. And then the next one that you probably will have guessed, because I did tell you as well, is Messi or Ronaldo.
Yeah, Messi. Like I said, I grew up as a Ronaldo fan. I had CR7 boots. So I remember the sparkly ones, anything CR7. And I remember on my old Liverpool kits that I have 7. which was mental, by the way. But like that used to be my hero growing up. But like, look at football and like you'd be in your garden with the Ronaldo stance, line up a free kick about to blaze over the fence. But
like he was as well.
Yeah, exactly that. But yeah, I think you just can't argue with Messi's quality.
Yep, I think he's winning quite comfortably at the moment as well. We keep a tally of it. If they're the best two players of the last 10-15 years, who's third behind them?
There's so many different conversations. Obviously, I love Sergio Busquets, but I can't say that. For me, I'd say Suarez. I love me some Luis Suarez. I think he could go down as one of the best, if not the best, number 9 of all time, like out and out striker. Obviously, he's sport for choice. People can throw like I probably see either Suarez or Iniesta. I think in the sense of Iniesta being an absolute like godsend of a centre midfielder, obviously allowing that Spain team, allowing that Barcelona side to do the things they've done. But there's other players in front of the conversation, but I'd pro them too. I can't really debate between Suarez or Iniesta. Could talk about like Robin or like Sergio Ramos, Manuel Neuer, Iker, but yeah, for me, Suarez or Iniesta.
And then the next one I want to ask, I already just started asking it, is Salah or Hazard.
Oh, that's a debate.
Well, that's what I think, but like people keep talking about it. I think Mika Richards said he preferred Hazard.
Really?
Curtis Jones said he preferred to watch Hazard, which I think's mad to the fact obviously.
Yeah,
I think. But who would you think's the better?
It's Salah by a landslide. I think people underrate Salah because he's still playing recently. I think he's the only current player in the Premier League that being like a GOAT debate for the Premier League. Obviously Kevin De Bruyne's like absolute mustard, like he is the baller, but I don't think he can potentially like talk like one of the Premier League greats, like put him in a top 5 Premier League players of all time. I don't think Kevin De Bruyne goes in it, but I think Salah does go in it. I think he's entered that conversation. I think if he gets that contract extension, which I'm guessing you are like waiting day by day, watching it tick by, just honestly, it's at a point where you look at FSG, you say like, if you just get him in a room, you lay out a contract and just say, put whatever number you fancy on that and head away because he's that good.
Yeah, I would quite like that, to be fair. But I think the worry, what people are thinking now is, obviously, again, at time of recording, which is what we're near the end of Feb, because we're at this point, it's not going to happen soon. I think, it's going to go to the end of the season. So it's kind of like made it more relaxed because they haven't gone in January, any of them. So you've got to the end of the season. Yeah. We are also doing quite well in the league, so everyone's feeling quite positive about that. Yeah. I think if we do get it over the line early enough, and then like you edging towards the last game of the season, I think people will just want to know, like, is this going to be the last time I see Van Dijk, Salah, Trent? You want to know what's going on.
But like, I think a weird thing that I can then like speak on the fact, like, obviously I play, of like, especially in the like professional football, footballers know the contract year. So, like, if my contract runs out in 2025, I know that season I've got to be the mustard. And you'll see it in a lot of players. Like, I think Rashford's a very, very good example of your contract year, you are incredible, and then you'll get the contract and some players relax. Of, like, you'll work so incredibly hard and then you'll get rewarded by, like, a fat contract. And then that then wouldn't... Not saying Salah would be the centre, and I'm really not saying this is just because he's been doing it for the past, like, 4 or 5 years, whatever, and if even longer, of performing at this sort of level. But like players perform so heavily in this last contract year, and then when they got the contract, they're not always the best of the year after, which you'll see sometimes. You'll see it in about the few players that you'll find, and you're like, that's a perfect example. Like I think Rashford's a good example of like how good he was in the year his contract's going to expire, and then he gets his contract and he changes. But I think it's a weird thing that like players do think about it.
Yeah. Well, and then if we're on this topic, 2 other scenarios I'll show at you then is that. You're Trent Alexander-Arnold, you're playing for your team, so you're playing in goal for Wigan. Yeah. You've won everything. Yeah. You're vice captain, set to be captain in a couple of years, and on course to probably win the league this season. Yeah. But Real Madrid have come in for you. Yeah. Would you think, I've won everything here, let's go and have the journey, or would you stay and
I think Trent's, the thing in Trent's head, I don't think he's thinking like that. I think Trent wants to be David Beckham. I think he wants to have like a big brand. I think you can look at that in the sense of like the way he stepped into like lifestyle of like Adidas and like the model in that sense. I think that's what Trent's aim is to be the next like David Beckham, and to be remembered in that sense. Not in the sense of like, I think he's thinking of football in terms, but I think it'll be fair to say as like the way he plays at the moment, he won't win the Ballon d'Or at Liverpool. I think you've got more of a sense of winning the Ballon d'Or at Real Madrid. Not saying that Salah can't win it this year, because I think he's the absolute front runner for Ballon d'Or at the moment, but it's February. But I think Trent's sense of like trying to become like a brand would be complete by going to Real Madrid, and I think that's what he's thinking, and I think it will happen personally.
And then if it was you though, what would you do?
I'd absolutely, if I was in the position at Wigan,
yeah,
I'd probably think like Trent, in all honesty. Yeah. I think you've got to think about, you're a footballer for 20 years, if you're lucky. So you've got to work for about the whole lifestyle. Not saying that the money he's on now is not like completely life changing, but not that it doesn't set you up for generations, but if that's what his personal goals are off the pitch, and to becoming this brand, or becoming like this all-time great, and the sense of done it in many, many countries, or wants to say he's done it abroad and won World Cup with England and done this and done that and captained this side, that side, I think he would do it at Real Madrid, and I'd probably do the same move if I was in a position.
Well, the reason I asked that is that I've spoken to a few footballers or athletes or whatever, and they've all been the opposite thought process of what I'd be, is that I just can't comprehend it. And everyone I speak to are just normal lads who just want to talk about footy. They just can't understand why you'd ever want to do that. But everyone you speak to who I said it was either a footballer or has that like athlete mindset of that, like you want to just get the best out of your career. Yeah, it's making me more and more convinced that he will go, which I think he'll go anyway. But like I say, let's just change my mind. And then one other question to you then is John Duran of Villa. Let's again put you in that position, and let's say you're playing for a mid-table Premier League club. Yeah, but you've been offered the superstar millions in Saudi Arabia, but you know the football's not as good, or at the very least not as many people want to watch you. Would you understand that?
I think for me it's a no-brainer. I think it's very easy to look at football as like a consumer, in the sense of like, why would someone want to do this? Like he's bordering on looking at you look at him for like, he scores goals in week out, and there are memorable goals. He's bringing up as such a big name within the Premier League, and he's like, this guy's he's only like 21. He's gonna be so good for the next like 10 years, being the Barclays Premier League football. And then if you think about it, he's only 21. He didn't have this lucrative offer like Trent has right now, of like he's currently on maybe like 150 grand a week, like for example like Trent, I don't know the exact number in all honesty. John Duran doesn't have that yet. He hasn't had that taste of like money yet, and then he's got a taste of not just money, like crazy money. He's 21. He grew up in Colombia, if I remember right. But it's a no-brainer. He's going to be whether you like or not. Like I said, football's his job. That's a job offer to him. Obviously, football's what you enjoy. Like when it's a football league, going to work wouldn't be seen as a job, but you're getting paid for it. You're only going to be doing this for 20 years, like I said, if you're lucky. Yeah. So when you get offered that sort of crazy money, especially when he's never had the taste of the crazy like $1 million bucks like sort of offers, I think it's a no-brainer. Personally, I think it's like, obviously as a football fan, you don't want to be seeing it, but as a fellow player, like I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, okay, no, I get it. And I said, the more I speak to people about it in a similar position mindset, it makes more sense as to why he was. But and just the fans just don't get it. I think
it's hard to see it happen as like a fan of football, but like as like a player, like an athlete within that world, you just kind of understand the decision. Like it's a life decision, not like a footballing decision.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll carry on with the debate. Sorry, went off topic. The goalkeepers, Buffon, Casillas, and Neuer. I'm guessing who you're going to pick, but 1, 2, 3.
I'd go Neuer. For the way he's revolutionised the position of football. Not saying that the other of them couldn't do it. I think Casillas would be very, very close in that mindset for me, especially the fact that he was so physically inept compared to them, but he had to be better at everything else. Kind of like the sense of like, I've got one arm, I've got to kind of do better at some other stuff to be able to compete with some other players, to be able to football position, be respected as much as these other players. But for me, I'd probably still say Neuer.
But we had Liverpool's goalkeeper coach in.
Yeah.
He said Neuer, so that is the right answer.
Yeah.
I feel like he knows the most, so that's correct on that one. Yeah. And the last one I'll ask you then is club or country. Again, you're probably in a very good position to answer this one. So what would you rather win, the World Cup or win the Champions League club level country?
I think this has changed in the last few years. I think forever, traditionally, you'd rather have your national team, and the people have started like transitioning into the club football mindset, but with like seeing players drop out the national team in order to play for the club. But I'll forever put my country over my club, forever. I'm very, very patriotic. I'm so proud every time I put an England kit. Like I said, like 26 appearances for my country. It's probably one of my proudest achievements. The fact that I've stepped out and represented not only like my family or like my journey, but like I'm representing England every time I step on the pitch, whether like you're like, I'm representing you when I step on the pitch, whether you're like or not. So that's my proudest thing. So I'd always say like country would be my forever over club in my eyes.
And again, I ask a lot of people from Liverpool. I'm sure you're aware that
people
don't like the country that much, but there aren't many who I think who do actually pick country. But I think in terms of sport, even if it was me, I don't really like England. But if you played football and you got picked for England, I think that's like a bigger honour than playing for your club. And that's, you've been told you're the best. We could pick anyone. You're the best. Whereas our budget determines that we're allowed to have you in this club team, but you are the best that we can pick. So I get why that'd be the biggest honour. I got a little bit carried away talking to Thomas about Big Brother, so we've decided to make it a separate video, which is available on the link right here or below in the comments. It's about half an hour chat about Big Brother, so if you're interested in that, as interested as I clearly was, go over and give that a watch, and we'll get back to the rest of the podcast right now. This is the first time we're doing this new feature, which is the red card. So it's one thing that you give a red card to in football and in life. So it has to be football related and it has to be non-football related. But it can be anything from VAR to, I don't know, getting a yellow card, taking your shirt off or whatever.
Yeah, no, I like that. I really like that. I don't understand why you can't do it. As a player that loves like the extra things of like celebrations, why do you get a yellow card when you take your top off?
It's wrong.
Like people say like it's because of the thing about your sponsor on your front of your shirt.
Yeah, I did see that,
of like being the money to do that. It's such a not like a light thing, and people say like, oh, it's maybe through the fact of like sexualizing it. Like it's so they take the top off at the end of the game, like give it out to fans, and like so you're topless then. Like what? It's such a minimal thing. It's just like overpolicing it. There's quite a few you probably see about in regards to like I hate referees. No. I know you've got a lot of time for them to make the game, but like when referees then commentate on other refereeing results, like and how they've done the verdicts of like, oh, this was done right, this was done wrong, like because they're just defending the mates. It's pointless. You might as well just get someone else in that's like spoke about it. And I also hate commentators to fill a quota. Like personally, I think there's so many good female pundits that you don't need to have any Aluko in, because I think she's not good. Like you saw no one complain when Helen Chamberlain was like soccer AM. She knows football. Like there's so many women in football that are so good. But like I think Jill Scott knows the stuff. I think there's so many people within the world of football that know it. But I think you're damaging the reputation of women's football sometimes when you got certain people speaking about it that aren't educated and they're just there to fill a quota. Like you could say like, oh, give me a job, right? Disability, perfect. Whereas I don't know as much, like in regards to like the commentary and the punditry as some of these other people do. So why should I have a job? So I think it does kill the game sometimes. Of the fact that people have jobs that I don't think it's quite justified.
Yeah. Okay. And then in normal life, what would you give a red card to?
Oh, let me cook on this. Let me cook.
So I had one where you go to a cash machine and you ask for 20 quid. And it comes out in fivers. But when you want the fiver, they never have fivers in there. So I've been when you're at your Skinters and you've got £6 in your bank and you can only get a fiver out. And but when you get 20 quid, it's all for that. That does me.
I'm trying to think of this. This is quite good. I'll tell you what, I'm putting it on a recent one. You know, I don't know if you can relate because it's a very like niche one of, you know, when you're taking like hand luggage away on like a thing, and like for me, I was absolutely fuming. I've just came back from Copenhagen with my girlfriend and my wheel was out of the EasyJet thing, and like, you know, your hand luggage got to fit inside a certain thing, a wheel, and I got to pay 96 quid. Are you joking? Like it was the wheel, and like these people that's like an absolute job's worth. Oh, you know what? I'm changing my answer. I'm going to parking wardens. Like I thought job's worths, and then it's like literally just a car park grass. Like that's all it is. Like when I put my meter an extra 15 minutes from when I actually parked. Does that affect your day? Like, actually, does it affect your day? Do you get commission on these? You're just a grass. Car parking wardens can get to fucking 2025 in my eyes.
They're getting the red cards, but perfect. And then I want to ask you about your analysis side of it. So you said you don't get paid for the football you play in England. You've obviously played in Poland. You're open to that again. There's a 20-year career.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the analyst side as something to do after football? And would it be able-bodied and people with disabilities, or do you just want to try and do what you're doing better?
I'm obsessed with football. I'm absolutely obsessed with football. From like the general playing sense of like what it takes to be a player, from like the physical like demands on the body, the training takes on like what the training is, or then the sense of like analysing your stuff on the pitch, like the 0.1%. I think once you've got the ability and you can see someone's got the ability, it's then like just then tune into being the perfect player that you need for an environment. And I'm like, I really, really love analysing football, and like I love sitting down and like explaining why are they doing something, why are they moving to there, why are they taking the throw into there, or why is a free kick being set up like this in certain situations. It's something that would be interesting. Like I've done, I got like a recent offer like in regards to like to do punditry, with like a local radio station, like my like local team, just for like I really love speaking about football. Like obviously like I've got like a semi platform from thing, but obviously I don't really have a platform about like known from speaking of football, which I probably could do a whole lot more content about like analysis of football and like certain situations, just from like I've got very much like a football brain of like the whole world revolves around it. Like I'll study the game, and like it's just like my job. Obviously I'm not getting paid for it at the moment, but like I'll study like everything that's going on inside of football and why stuff going on and what it takes to get to these certain levels. But hopefully in the future I can get the job that revolves around like knowledge of football in that sort of sense.
Yeah, because we've had Josh from Distance Covered, and he does a thing for like, he does like pro stuff, but his is all like statistical based, and he's got like his own Substack, does an articles, podcast, stuff like that, and obviously that's his way into it. And then I think it'd be not the last guest before that we had on was Thomas Gronemark. I still can't say his name, but he was the throwing coach at Liverpool. So like he's gone into the very niche world of throwing.
0.01%.
Well, I said that to him, and he said that's wrong. It's about 30%. But what's the episode? You can see he shouts at me for saying that. But is that something maybe you would look into and that maybe find in the small area? Because I think he said as well, there's a substitution coach now at MK Dons and stuff like that. So there are like very small things. Would you do that, or would you look for like just a more general?
I think like obviously I'm qualified in like my coaching badges, and like I've got my own like personal badge, been like personal like performance coaching for like the way you're playing, and like why you're doing stuff, of like even just like the ability to like drive in passes and like the slight turns, and like I really like players to have an understanding of like not only like what am I doing in this situation, but why am I doing it? Why am I doing like a cross-body pass? Why am I opening up the hips when I make my touch, just so I can see the side of the pitch that I'm playing on the side of them? Why am I a left-footed centre-back? Why is that so valuable? Why is that like then an option to my team? Or like even like the analysis of like the new number 10 within football. Like I'm seeing this recently with the fact that in the past few years you can speak about like the Pep Guardiola side of like so systematic football, of like this rigid system of like you know exactly what's going to go on. It's so like not direct, but so strict in the fact like this is what you play a role, and then like the strict midfield. And then like I love like the new development the number 10's brought back. Like the number 10 was lost for many years, and like you think of certain players of like if Ozil was in a few different like eras ago, and you think he would have the movement, but you're coming back into it now and it's happening again. You look at like the success of like Cole Palmer, or like even like Bellingham's being deployed as like a number 10. The number 10's coming back. It's bringing like the creative side. Like if you look at the Real Madrid side, if you look, have you been watching the Real Madrid side recently?
Yeah.
It's not tactical, like complete, this is how we're going to play. You've put 11 incredibly talented players on and just let them play football. Like talent will always win. It will, and it's coming back. And I love the fact that coaches are kind of being less strict on how, and just letting players, you know what, you've got ability, just go change the game in an instant, and that's what's happening again. And it's football's healing is what I'd describe it as, instead of this systematical approach where drilling players into being a sense of this is how a right back in my system must perform. If you look at Arne Slot's system, this is, you know what, let me just alter this a little bit, go have the freedom, go win a Premier League. I love it. I love watching it. Football's healing.
Real Madrid, especially where you say there's interesting that so much is made of Guardiola and Klopp, and then Real Madrid win more European Cups than both of them in that time. Exactly. And I don't even think people know how they play, and that they just win. They're just a bit boring when they win. That's basically what it is.
There's a conversation. If someone does that, like, what formation are Real Madrid in? You go like midfielder, right back, left back, midfielder. You're like, I don't even know what the system to call this, but it just goes and works because you've got talented players. Like Ancelotti's very, very fluid. He'll set up 1 year with wingers. This this next year he set up with no wingers. He played like everyone through centrally. He then moved like from example like Valverde from being like a centre mid to a left back, or Camavinga doing this, or like no, Valverde would move to like a right winger at some points. Camavinga moved from a centre mid to a left back. Like he was just so fluid when his system was like, let me just put my talented players on the pitch and let me just alter my system a little bit to allow them to be on the pitch at the same time in some form of system, and just go out and win games. And I think if you look at like even the grassroots level, you just say like, oh, let me just get my best players on and just go win me a game. That's what Real Madrid are doing right now. Let me put my most talented 11 players on and just go win a game of football. Bravo.
Yeah, they do quite a lot as well, don't they, to be fair to them.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, if it's not a broke system, don't change it.
Yeah. So what is it that you're doing now, and what are you doing next?
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm very much just exploring a lot of options. I've got a modelling side of things that I'm doing at the moment. I'm very much exploring the social media side of things. I've got my own sport coach business, which is ready to launch at Easter, which is like going into like skills and coaching in that sense, and then bringing the aspect of then back home to say like your performance coaching of, from me having the experience at like a professional level, to then come back into like a grassroots level and like coach like what kids on one-on-one levels, or like in small group sessions where I can really give that small constructed advice. The fact that you wouldn't really get that on either way, because I've been lucky enough to play with these major coaches that have put so much work. And like, I mean, like, I don't think it means anything like badges or anything. I think like it means more like what you have to do as a coach. Because I feel like you can have like a B license, C license, pro license, whatever. It doesn't mean anything unless you're actually a good coach. Because football isn't done with a certificate. You're done it through being a coach and like knowing the game. That's why I think I'll always have a bit of a love for a coach that's played as well. Like, I'll always love that. And like a Cruyff, like a Zidane that's done that. So I'll always have that love for it, that sort of thing. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, and kind of exploring that world and trying to manage the new content creating side of the world at the moment, trying to do a lot of like goalkeeper content and still doing better lifestyle stuff, because people want to know what I've done from Big Brother and that.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's definitely interesting and exciting to follow along. What do you want anyone who's watching or listening, what do they need to do to follow you?
Yeah, so all my socials are the exact same. AKI_GK, which is just Aki, which is what everyone calls me on like a football pitch, because like my second name's Atkinson. Aki, AKI_GK. Same on TikTok, Instagram. Facebook's pushed my name, to be fair, but don't bother me on my Facebook. I don't really post it. I'm not really interested by it. Instagram and TikTok's my main ones. Fancy looking at me on YouTube. I've got a few shorts on there as well, but the same as my other clips. Yeah. But yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, don't be silly. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, honestly, I forget that I packed them on camera half of the time. Honestly, it's been amazing. Just a chit chat. I love chatting about football. Obviously, I've been on Big Brother, so I happily chat about that experience. Obviously, it's quite new to anyone, like learning what's going on behind the scenes. So it's been really, really good.
No, I've enjoyed it, mate. Yeah, thank you very much. And I say, hopefully we'll maybe speak to you or see you again in the future. And best of luck with everything. I'm sure in 5 to 10 years' time, you'll be captain of Wigan, winning.
Fingers crossed that, because we won't be winning now. Like,
but you never know. But thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And thank you everyone at home for watching or listening to the Football Historian Podcast.